Are you in for an urban sketch demo? I hope so, because I am really excited in painting in my sketchbook today. A lovely scene from my hometown, lovely light and shadows and perspective. I was walking around in town yesterday and I saw this lovely inspiring view, but the place was not as quiet as I wanted to, so I decided to take a photo and to paint from it afterwards. So that's not technically urban sketching because I am not going to paint on location, but I still feel connected to the moment, to the place, because I took the photo just yesterday, so it seems quite okay to record it in my sketchbook, and it will also be easier for me to offer a good quality demo with a nice view and live commentaries that way. So let's paint! This is a sketch I did yesterday on location. These days, sometimes when I think about it, I try to make a value thumbnail, you know, to catch a bit of sense of light I want to record, and I think it looks quite nice on the sketchbook to have this kind of sketchy, rough, dirty feeling. I should think about making a few swatches or scribbling a few things. So yeah, the idea of this really iconic view of my hometown was to catch this light on the building and just this side of the belfry, so I try to work on the composition and on the value on the thumbnail, and then did this painting. I'm pretty happy with it because I think I managed to keep the looseness I like, but while recording quite well the look and the feeling of the belfry and the atmosphere in the city, and I really like this sense of light, just with a trim of light and a bit of some other shadowy part. So today I'm going to work after my photo to try to make another light and shadow sketch. So what I especially want to work on is the sort of opposition between a really light area and a sort of shadow shape in here. Depending on how you process your photo, you can see it more or less the feeling you want to. So this area is in the sun, this area is in the shade, and these houses are in the shade, but I think there is a bit of reflecting light so that they are a bit less darker than the other part. And I also like the porch and the line leading the eye. So this was the first photo I took, you know, to record a bit of the place, and suddenly I saw someone walking in the street, so I took this other one with a silhouette in here. It's quite a small silhouette, so I will be afraid about messing up, but maybe just a few strokes to evoke someone, or maybe another posture I would be more at ease to catch. I'll see. Yeah, I'm going to try to record that, starting with a thumbnail and then just paint! Yeah! So let's work on this composition, so vertical format, and trying to catch the dynamic of the lines. So the main subject, the silhouette, should be, you know, out of center, up out there, and so there is a dynamic of the street, a bit that way. There is some houses clothing the frame to the left. I even put, I think my silhouette is going to be here now. This is a house we see the window of. I always sketch a frame at first, and then sometimes I change a bit how I am going to put it. This is the sidewalk. I don't want to be caught in the details, but I just try to put a few to have a landmark of you know, what I'm doing and where am I in the scene. This is a bit of the windows. Don't know if I will try to evoke a few cobblestones or not, because yeah, it's going to be quite a big area in shadow just in here, so you don't want it to be boring, but probably it doesn't need so much detail because the focus is going to be up, so I will see, probably playing with a bit of granulation and a few splatters on the top, and yeah, maybe a few strokes for the cobblestones. I see how it goes. So we have two windows in here, And I don't know if I have to paint some sky or just keeping some blue. I have yet to figure out a bit of my color scheme and which area I want to keep white. And so the shadow shape would be, you know, these houses are in the shade. And a bit of the sidewalk. And there is a kind of shadow shape that way. So I am still working like in my Iceland sketchbook tool with the Derwent Inktense ink black, which is a black watercolor pencil, so that I can have a bit of pencil work and then dilute it with water to create values. So maybe for bigger area I'm going to use a real brush because I am at home and it's easier to make. So this is all my big shadow shape. And of course you have a few shadow even on the sunny area. And the darker area in this shadow shape, so there is this lovely porch, so I need to have a sense of the shape and the shade underneath. And at the top of the window there is always this kind of triangle that you can try to catch to give a sense of light. And sort of contact shadow between the ground and doors and everything. As the houses are bricks, so a bit red, I am not going to keep them white, so I am going to start with a really light wash just to evoke a bit of the color. So with some, maybe I can make some color swatches, I was talking about it. And just to finish about the framing, so my silhouette is in here. And yeah, maybe just playing a bit with this negative shape of the sky in here. And I want to keep it really left. So it could be a bit that way, even almost a panoramic framing. So for the color of the bricks, I am going to use some transparent red oxide, probably diluted at first and then a bit less. I can add a bit of color variation just with a bit more red here and there, or a bit more quinacridone gold if I want to. Or I even put a bit of pure pyrrole orange in my palette the other day. It's a bit of a mess in my palette right now, but I still don't know if I like it. It's so powerful, sometimes it overpowers a bit the sketch, but maybe to give a sense of something a bit stronger for the brick, it could be quite nice. Because the transparent red oxide is really dull, you can see how the orange is brighter. So this would be the color scheme for the bricks, or maybe sometimes just a little dip of pink, so you know, really playing with the color variation. Then for the road, which is quite bluish, I will use a bit of a mix of ultramarine, of course, and Moonglow for kind of, you know, not too bright color. So of course with some variations in value, so lighter, darker. This could be the darkest dark. And this is quite a shadowy little street, so there were quite a lot of moss on the street and on the cobblestones, so the green apatite genuine is really nice to have a sense of color of moss. And if I want it even a bit, you know, more eye-catchy and brighter, I can just pick a bit of my Sennelier yellow light, so you know, cool yellow, to have this kind of moss feeling, and we can start seeing how the green apatite genuine is granulating. So of course, to catch the sense of texture of the moss and everything, it can be really interesting. And now let's paint. I'm always a bit wondering this day if I should make a few pencil marks or just sketching straight with the brush or something. I'm not always sure, so I guess I am just going to make a few marks, but not too much, you know, just to set a bit the composition once again. So I think I'm going to keep the sky white to have an opening, and because my houses are colorful, I'm going to start with a wash, for a really light wash for the houses, so the light part of the scene. Maybe having a bit of a yellowish shade. I could use a bit of goethite too, to have a bit of a beige light color mixed with a bit of quinacridone gold, and just to start defining the houses really light way, light wash. This is even, I think I should have it a bit slanted to help the granulation or something around the ring, having the watercolor flowing. So I just put something underneath my sketchbook, and so this area is going to be darker, so I will paint it later, just dropping a bit of yellow. This is going to be sort of focal point, so it's light, but I want it to be eye-catchy, so I just picked a bit of yellow, and the roof is a bit darker. And the house itself. To the left. So once again I have to remember that I want it really light. I don't know if I should have kept a bit more white for windows in here. Maybe I can just lift a bit of the color with the tissue. So I don't know if this is too dark for the lighter part, we'll see. That's sometimes a bit my problem, having a hard time to have really light values. And keep going with some blue, light blue in the street. A bit of the green. But I like that these are quite bright colors, because of course in the shade you don't have as bright color, so it's going to be a bit darker. Even if I'm going to add a bit more, you know, a darker wash afterwards, I'm going a bit of color in here as a sort of underpainting for the shadow side. So I'm going to take my bigger mop. So I don't know, I'm wetting the area, trying to create some fusing colors. So the green apatite genuine is just wonderful when you use it on wet paper too. So yeah, why not playing with a bit of wet in wet before defining things. And then maybe I don't want too much details and texture in this. I think I should keep the bigger brush for these bigger areas. So this is going to be covered afterwards by the other wash, but maybe trying to have a sense of glow underneath, playing with a kind of glazing rendering. Playing with transparent red oxide, wet in wet too. Maybe just a bit of stronger here and there. So this is more wet in wet painting that I am used to be, especially for this kind of scene. So I am a creative, I am an experimenter, so with my creative personality, each thing is creation, is always an experiment. So we'll see how it goes. Could have put a bit of Piemontite genuine for bricks and atmosphere. The colors out there are quite lovely. Yeah, to be careful with the wet paper. I will paint this later. So this is a fun start. I think that now I have to wait for it to dry because I painted more wet than I am used to when I paint on location for urban sketching. So see you when it's dry! Here it is, that's dry. So now we are going to paint the shadow shape, so it's going to be on the top of all this part, but with this kind of color variations and strokes and effect hopefully coming through, and probably this shadow shape is going to give a really great sense of contrast with this kind of side. So on this side I will just add a few little details later, but almost nothing. Want to keep it simple. So for the shadow shape I'm going to start with kind of warm tones, because this had a bit of reflecting light, so more these warm tones of orange or pinkish or reddish or yellowish, and then I'm going to go cooler and cooler when I go toward the bottom. So yeah, I'm going to mix starting with a bit of quinacridone gold with transparent red oxide, maybe a bit of Piemontite genuine. Or if I want a plain color I can add a bit of a touch. Yeah, this quinacridone fuchsia is so powerful. But let's go. So yeah, I want a bit warmer for now, so yellowish color. So I really ignore the windows. I think I could have kept the white windows in here, but for the shadow side I don't want any white windows. So playing with colors. This pyrrole orange. So that's probably a bit too bright, but I'm going to be duller and duller. Am I going back? I can maybe drop a bit of Piemontite genuine to have it darker, and especially at the bottom, because buildings are always a bit lighter towards the sky, darker of course at the bottom. I like this kind of dropping color look. And yeah, I don't want to forget that here I will have my dark porch, so I want to keep this area just slightly lighter so that the porch can really stand out. There is a really strong dark area here, and this is going to connect. There is a bit of a shadow in here, so can keep it connected between the different planes. And now I want it cooler in here. Yeah, I guess a bit of blue can add a nice sense of contrast. That's really bold. I'm looking forward to see how it's going to turn out. And so my shadow shape on the ground, Moon Glow. Ultramarine. So I want it quite strong. Maybe I'm going to use a bit of my special mix, you know, the one between the phthalo turquoise and quinacridone fuchsia to get even a stronger pigment feeling. Yeah, trying to play a bit more with dynamic brush strokes. So maybe more color variations in here, and don't want to lose a sense of dynamic of the street. So I'm wondering about the bottom. I don't know if I should you know, keep working with this kind of loose strokes out there, or I know that other painters usually think that that's quite distracting, that way that I have, you know, not to have a neat border around my sketches. I don't know, I think I quite like it. I would be interested in you telling me your opinion. Is this kind of thing distracting for you? Would you think you prefer a square edge, you know, neat edge, even maybe with some masking tape or something? Or do you like this kind of loose brush stroke I like to play with in the edges, you know, in here too? So yeah, tell me. Oh yeah, I had this idea. I know I want to play a bit more with this kind of scraping technique these days. So it means that you use a palette knife or card, you know, fidelity card, credit card, everything to scrape the paint. If it's really light like that with really watery wash, it doesn't really work. But if you have a quite strong wash like the one I did in here, and you wait a bit for it to dry so that the water is not going to invade your mark again, you can play with it with a few marks. I try to check how wet the wash is. I was thinking maybe I can try to evoke a few windows or the roof. Look at these marks, I think that's quite lovely. I saw that the artists during the exhibition and workshop and everything were using it quite a lot, and I thought, oh, I definitely should using it a bit more, because I like this kind of mark effect. So see, when it's still a bit too wet, the water and pigment invade the mark again, or sometimes it makes, if it's really too wet, it makes a darker mark, whereas having a lighter mark, this was probably the perfect wetness, because see, it's just a really straight, stronger mark. So keep playing, I'm going to keep playing with it. So, oh yeah, really too wet, you know, it didn't mark at all to the left, so I have to wait a bit more. I like how you can, you know, get back a bit of details, lighter value in your dark, but without having it too. So I try to keep it abstract. Sorry, I should finish my sentences. And I am also wondering about a few splatters in the bottom. So once again, can be distracting but can be fun also. And I'm adding a bit of interest and texture for the road. So this may still a bit too dark and too plain. can just make a few marks on the road to maybe just even having a bit of a shadow thing. Not so straight. Yeah. So, abstract and dynamic, but quite a few color variations and a bit of texture, everything, maybe just slightly darker in here. So there was that line out there, but it's maybe still a bit too wet. So my splatter didn't show a lot. Not sure why. Whatever, I like the scraping marks too. But don't overdo it. So I'm going to try to paint a few details in the light area while trying not to put my hand just in the wet wash in here. That's quite a strong, colorful contrast. I would like it a bit more blue to try to, to balance and to make you think about this other blue area. Try not to put my arm too much in front of the camera for you. Once again, this is quite dark and bold. Let's be bold! So I want to make a few thinner, more subtle marks out there. Here, there is a... Sometimes I add a bit more because I like how this kind of thing adds a bit of a refined look to the sketch. Maybe I can try my scraping again in here. Yeah, better. Way better. And in here? Yeah! You want an anecdote about this little card? Because they give you a big one that I keep with my other cards, and this small one I thought, oh, I don't need it because I already have the big one, so I was keeping it in my bag for the painting. And the other day I was in Carrefour in this shop, and I realized I didn't have my card, fidelity card and everything, which is not a drama, but whatever. And suddenly I thought, oh, but I have my painting card in my bag, so I really used this one full of paint on the machine to get the fidelity card used. So it was quite funny, I think, just for sharing with you this fun anecdote. And now let's paint the window. So my sense of light, what I wanted to work on, really starts to appear. Try to add these few marks in a loose way. Few details, but not too much. And now that the shadow area is almost dry, I can add a bit of the detail in here too, windows. going to wait slightly more for the porch. But I think I'm almost done trying to figure out if I forgot something important or if there is something to refine. So yeah, that was my silhouette. But I am wondering if I'm going to mess up. Probably sometime I shouldn't wait the lifetime to do it, but whatever. So, how we said during our sketching figure video, not too big, always trying maybe smaller. So that's really small, just an evocation. Yeah, don't want to overdo it, but just for the presence out there. And so the light is coming that way, shadow shade. Maybe I have just one bit of a sort of cast shadow to my character. Oh, and yes, I have to paint the shadow in my porch, and probably it will be the last touch. Here it is. I'm really looking forward to hear what you think about it. I sometimes wish I would be slightly more subtle. For example, yesterday this was slightly more subtle with the contrast, and this is maybe slightly too bold, but I think I quite like it because I managed to get this sense of light I wanted to catch really strongly. And the reason why I went stronger than yesterday for my painting is because for the other one I had this kind of white area that could add a bit of contrast even with some mid-tones, but in here because of the color of the houses and the house, I decided to keep only the sky white. So as I had this light colorful wash in here, I wanted a stronger contrast in the shadow area to be sure the value would be different enough and the sense of light would be strong. So please tell me what you prefer, or do you like both? I know a lot of you tell me you have some difficult time to loosen up, so I hope this demo can help you understand and grasp that the contrast is what makes the difference and that you don't need so much details if you have the sense of light and contrast you want to convey. So maybe it can be a help for you to loosen up, be bold, be free, loose brush strokes, strong contrast, and I am sure you will be amazed with the results. I hope you liked to watch me paint and to hear my thoughts about the process and a few advice about how to tackle this kind of scene with watercolor. I am looking forward to hearing about what you think about the demo and the painting. Is it a bit too bold for your taste, or do you like it that way with a strong sense of light? And feel free to share what is your own style. Are you in the a bit too bold side like me, or a bit too weak? In March I shared quite a lot of content about making artwork and about the workshop and about the exhibition I was into. So in April I am really excited about sharing more about journaling and sketchbooking and urban sketching, so stay tuned for the following. Thanks for watching, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, to like, to share, to everything. Spread the word with creativity. Have a great creative day!